Heyo and welcome back to Wonderlands gamers. In today's video I have all the loot from 100 farms of Chums, aka the shark dude at the end of DLC 1 that just dropped a couple days ago. Continuing a series I started in Borderlands 3 where I farm all the bosses 100 different times to take down their dedicated drops and drop rates for you guys, as well as things like chaotics, volatiles, and now primordials that just dropped, so you guys know what to expect when you go to farm a boss. Now if you guys would like to farm Chums for yourselves, you will require DLC 1, and if you've never been there before, first go to the overworld and then right next to the gold boost shrine, you'll be able to find the portal for Dreamville Overlook. This is where you start all of the Mirrors of Mystery dungeons, and Chums is located at the end of the first one. So you will have to make your way through the mobbing areas first. There's like 5 rooms, but don't stress, you won't have to do that for every farm, because like some boss in the base game, you can actually farm Chums on a loop without save quitting, which is a huge time saver. So once you've taken him out the first time, the portal will appear, but don't go through the portal. Instead, down yourself with an explosive weapon like some Torque Stickies or a TD or Chuck, and then you'll respawn back at the top of the boss fight arena. Drop back in and the boss will respawn with you every single time. All of the loot will also be there the entire time, so after 100 runs, the map gets a little full of legendaries. Now that Chaos level 35 is out, by the way, we'll be farming at that from now on for all the future videos, which also means my loot luck number went up, by the way. We now have 64,000 loot luck because the Chaos loot luck multiplier went up as I leveled up. And if you're wondering how the heck did I get to 64,000, that is the breakdown right there, but I did make a separate video on it. Linked in the description, I'll link out at the end of the video if you guys need it. The main point is you want this number to be as big as possible so you get way more legendary world drops and dedicated drops as well. And also the UI of this page is fixed. As of the patch, all of that is fine now. I'm going to go through the loot first before we jump into the gear because the drops are really weird on this dude. Not 100% sure what's going on, but after 100 farms, Chaos 35 with now 64,000 loot luck of Chums, we got 70 legendary items, which is very average, weirdly enough, particularly for Chaos 35. On Chaos 20, we got more loot from Banshee, and we got more loot from Kesa as well. So not a whole bunch, a decent amount, but I just kind of expected more now that we're on Chaos 35 with a higher loot luck number. As for dedicateds, in huge quotation marks, we got 25 of them. The dedicateds, I'm assuming, are just the new DLC gear. I assumed that the new boss would drop all of the new DLC gear, but that doesn't seem to be the case for some reason. So to save confusion, rather than calling them dedicateds, I'm just going to say the new DLC loot that drops from Chums for this video until I know what's going on. I think potentially as the raid boss levels up, if you didn't know, each week we're supposed to come back and the boss is supposed to be a little bit harder. Potentially more loot gets added to him for us to farm, not 100% sure. But out of the 25 new DLC items that I got, 2 of them were Rain Bolts, which is the new spell, and 23 of them were the Lethal Catch Rings, which are both really good items, but there's also a ton of other really good DLC items, which don't seem to be dropping from the boss for whatever reason, which also makes this a bit of an update on yesterday's video. Apologies, I must have had the wrong information there. I was completely confident that I got both the class mod and the spell that adds the soaked effect to enemies from the boss itself, and I mustn't have, because now I haven't got any of it in 100 runs, so I guess I must have got it from the Wheel of Fate and forgotten. Apologies if I steered you guys in the wrong direction, but you can get it after you finish your run from the Wheel of Fate. You'll just have to stand there spinning for a while until you get it. Otherwise, I'm pretty certain it also drops in the Chaos Chamber from the bunnies as well. Now, as for the world drops, like I said, we got 70 legendaries total. 25 of them were the dedicated / new DLC items, and 45 of them were world drops. The distribution of them, I started taking it down just, to double check kind of thing. I thought that would be kind of sporadic. Turns out there's a decent trend with most bosses, how they all shape up. So we got, out of the 45, we got 12 melee weapons, 10 class mods, 8 guns, 6 wards, 5 necklaces, 3 spells, and 1 ring. Pretty much every single time, rings and necklaces always seem to be at the bottom. I don't know why, there's just way less of them. Even though they're kind of like class mods, there's a bunch of them and they can all roll with different characters, so I don't really know, but if you're like me, can never seem to get any good rings or necklaces, it's because they barely ever world drop for some reason. The only one that's super different on this list compared to the other bosses we've tried so far is spells. For some reason, second last on the list, where it's usually all the way at the top, so don't come here for spells. Our first DLC item, which we managed to get to drop a whole 2 times this farm, was the Rain Bolt spell. This is the one that shoots not a lightning bolt, a rainbow led by a TNT stick. Now, I've only ever had 3, 2 from this farm and then 1 from the Wheel of Fate, and all 3 of them were fire. So please let me know if you guys have different variations in the comment section down below. I'm sure other people would like to know as well. Now, this thing definitely isn't the hardest hitting spell. Only 200 base damage plus the 605 elemental fire damage, and also the added ability at the bottom, the unique passive, is on hit applies a random status effect to a target, which is good for some skills, particularly I believe it's the Stabomancer tree. The more elemental, different types of elemental dot an enemy is taking, the more damage they take overall. So it's a good ability for that, but definitely not the hardest hitting spell. It's also a hold to repeatedly cast spell, by the way, so if you just hold down, it'll shoot up to 3 rainbows with TNT sticks out the front. But if you cancel too early and only shoot 2, you have to wait for the same cooldown anyway, so you may as well hold it the entire way. Now also, 0% chance to critical hit, not sure why, and I just noticed I rolled a 2x spell damage passive on it, and it's still only 205 damage, which is kinda odd. Like, what happens if I didn't roll those 2 spell damages? Do we just do no damage from this spell? Our second DLC item, the Lethal Catch Ring, is actually one of my new favorite items out of the DLC, and it dropped 23 times, so you shouldn't struggle getting it if you go to Farm Chums. We managed to get a couple of volatile rolls. You can get a bunch of different passives here. I got gun damage, melee damage, and spell damage, so you can roll it for multiple different builds. Specs, you can have 3 passives here, which you can roll, and the ability at the bottom is the main, draw card. On killing an enemy, this ring's effectiveness is increased by 25% for 8 seconds, which I believe buffs all of these passives as well as the passive at the top. And killing one enemy in the Chaos Chamber or in the DLC dungeon, you're doing that all the time, so you're having that effect up all the time. And then on top of that, if the enemy was a land shark or a crab, it is increased by 100% instead, which is in most of the areas in the new DLC dungeon. And then the Chaos Chamber, I'd say it's probably like half the rooms you'll find a crab or a land shark or both, so you're getting a lot of damage from one ring pretty often. Now, as for the all-important Chaotix, Volatiles, and Primordial drop chance, the best items in the game have their own set drop chance, which you can find in your Chaos menu if you guys didn't know. And the loot lock number doesn't directly affect this. By increasing your loot lock number, you see more Legendaries, which in turn you will see more of these. But the drop chance in this little window here isn't actually affected by your loot lock number, it's only affected by your Chaos level, which, as you can see, at Chaos 35 is the only time you're going to see any Primordials drop at all, and it's only a 1.6% drop chance. At max level, Volatiles now drop 17.4% of the time, and they will go down as you go down in Chaos levels all the way till 20. From Chaos 19 and below, you won't see any Volatiles or Primordials, and your Chaotic drop chance changes all the way through. It actually starts to go down past level 20 because you see more Volatiles in turn. As for what we actually saw in game today, because those are often 2 different numbers, out of the 70 legendaries we got after the 100 farms of Chums, we got 11 enchanted items, which we don't have anything to compare that to for the moment, but that's just for future reference or future videos. We did get 15 chaotic weapons though, which is a pretty average amount. We got 9 volatile weapons, which is the most we've ever got in a single video. I think the previous highest was 3, and then all of the other ones, I think we only managed to get 1 volatile, if any. This time around, though, we got 0 primordials, unfortunately, so I don't have any big, shiny primordial legendary to show off to you guys today. Fingers crossed for next time we manage to find one so I can show it off to you guys next time. If you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to subscribe down below. Helps out the channel a bunch, and it is much appreciated. Other than that, we have a Twitch we stream to every night just after we post the videos, and we also have a Discord community. If you guys are interested in either, I'll link them in the description down below. If you guys want to get max loot luck, I'll leave the video linked right here. And other than that, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Until next time, adios.